Tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome to this online space, Gaylyn, and whoever else is going to join through on this meeting today. I'm very grateful for the time that you've taken today to be here. As we know, time is really a gift, and I hope it will be a valuable session for connecting and sharing. So perhaps before we begin, we open this virtual space here today for sharing and learning with karakia. Whakatakateho ki te uru, whakatakateho ki te tonga, kia makinakina ki uta, kia mataratara ki tai, kia hi a ke ana, te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hohu, tihe, mauri ora. Amen. So I think we've got the techie stuff done. We're all muted, which is awesome. And if you look at the top right of your screen, you'll see there's the gallery view or speaker view. Generally appreciate the gallery view so you can see each other, especially for the first part, which is the introductions. But if you have a shaky connection, I suggest you use the stop video button. This will stop your video, and also be less draining on your computer's power. If you need to communicate in a non-verbal manner, there's the chat tab at the bottom of your screen, as well as if you click the participants tab, you'll see that you can do a yes tick or a no tick very quickly to react to someone. You can ask me to go slower or faster, and you can hit the thumbs up or thumbs down button. Perhaps you might want to practice with that, so please go ahead and give it a go if you need to. I'm always happy to see how you guys are going with those sort of things. Thank you, Jacky. I got a thumbs up. And we're going to continue. I thought we'd start with a little bit of introduction. I've got the map of the Cook Islands there to see where we all are. As you can see, we're stuck in kind of wet, windy Auckland today, and Hawke's Bay and Palmy, this side here. And I do a little introduction, and I thought two things that you could share today to get to know each other would be, how do you keep yourself healthy? So I thought I'd start. As you know, I'm Misha Shamdass. I began teaching and learning about 25 years ago, focusing on the secondary school sector with computer science and mathematics being my main areas of specialization. As a PLD facilitator in the digital technologies area, I'm very, very happy working in this space at Tātai Angitu with my colleagues Jacky and Lesieli. And I'm super passionate about collaborative practices between us kaioko and to develop the agency and success for our students. The two things that I do to keep myself healthy, I like practicing yoga. I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm pretty beginner, and I love taking my dogs for walks on the beach, which I'm sure is not as lovely as the ones in the Cook Islands. So I think I'll pass the baton on to Lesieli, and then you can nominate the next person. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Unmute myself. Kia ora na tātou katoa ko Lesieli Tongati'o taku ingoa. And I am based at Tātai Angitu in Massey University, Palmerston North. And so it's a nice flat little town. You can get around in half an hour, I suppose. You can cover the city, yeah. So it's not that bad, not like Auckland. So I've always been in education, but most of my work has mainly been in the tertiary level and in the Ministry of Education here in Wellington. And so we moved to Palmerston North to come to university, and we've stayed ever since in Palmerston North, although I worked in Wellington for over 25 years. And then I worked at the University of Canterbury for a couple of years Same at Victoria University, and I've always commuted from here. So I know the people at the airport really well. They know me well as well. Oh, where are you going this time? Yeah, what do I do to keep myself healthy? I guess I get up early in the morning and have breakfast. And then I practically sometimes forget to eat during the day. And people here will stop me, let's go and have coffee or something. I go for walks sometimes. And my other passion is I like making jewelry, making things. That's one thing I really like coming to Cook Islands. You get to buy things, and then I bring it here and I make it into any kind of thing that I want. And if I want it to be perfect, I take it to the jeweler. But if it's just something I can wear myself. And the main thing I like about that is I go to places, different places for whatever work or otherwise. And I often like to wear necklaces or earrings or whatever that nobody else is wearing, which is good thing about making your own jewelry. And I grew up back in Tonga, and my grandmother made shell necklaces and stuff. You know how they sold it in the old days. And I guess that's something that I, keep with me and growing in this place here. So that's a little something about myself. So I'll hand it over to you, Jacky.
Kia ora koutou, my name is Jacqueline Yoshioka Braid, and I have been teaching, I started training in 2010, so that's 10 years ago now, and been teaching ever since then, and teaching across primarily ESOL and Japanese and digital technology. So I've taught in all of those areas. I'm really passionate about e-learning and about how we can use all of these tools to make things better for our students, I guess, to improve their learning outcomes. So so I'm very excited about all of what we're doing now. What do I do to keep myself healthy? Guess I have behind me, this is a photograph that I've taken of my beautiful Timata Peak, which I live at the foothills of this beautiful area. One of the things I love doing, and it's for my mental health, is actually going out and taking photographs. So it's I wouldn't say it's my side gig so much. It's just something I really am passionate about, taking photographs and just enjoying capturing the beauty that is in the world today. And the other thing that I like doing is cycling, and I've just managed to get myself back on my bicycle again to actually do some cycling and get fit, because I have been doing nothing lately and I've really sort of felt it. so that's kind of how I keep myself healthy. And yeah, so Gaylyn, I'll pass over to you. It's all yours.
Kia ora everyone. I'm Gaylyn, Lockington. I'm in Techy in the Cook Islands, where today our temperature is currently 20 degrees. So it's nice compared to your freezing New Zealand weather over there. I'm of Techy descent. I'm what I consider a foot salad. My father is half English and half Cook Islander. And my mother is half Irish, Scottish, half Achuan. So yeah, I'm a mixture of things, of nations here in the Cook Islands. While I was still in school as a secondary teacher, I had a lot of expat teachers. So I decided back then that I wanted to be a teacher. I want to come back and help. Always been my dream, my goal, to come back to SCP and eventually teach. It's taken me 7 years to become a qualified New Zealand and Cook Island teacher, and 20 years to finally come home. to the Cook Islands, and not just to be a teacher, but to be the principal officer. So I'm the first female Cook Islander, Atkina, to be the principal here at the college. Initially, I wanted to be a primary school teacher. Training college over here, we had to do an entry exam, and based on the entry exam, I was told by the teachers then that I was going to be a maths and science secondary teacher. Not two areas that I was very keen to do. I have no regrets with that decision made by the tutors and the lecturers way back then. It's an area that's much sought for nowadays, maths and science teachers. So I like the fact that other people had some influence in my life, and I am here where I am today. Not only of my decision, but the support of other people along the way. I want to know more about e-learning. I was one of the Cook Islanders who got stranded in New Zealand during the lockdown. And I have 2 grandchildren in Victoria who's undergoing another lockdown, and they keep talking to me about all these e-learning platforms or strategies that they are having to go through to keep up with their schooling. So I want to know how, if COVID, or if we have to get into that mode in the future where we have to go online. I want to be on par, I guess, so that I can be of assistance to my staff as well as the students to help the learning to continue if we ever hit that pathway. That's me. Oh, what do I do to over here? It's quite a big school, and in the mornings I normally get up and go for a walk. But since I've come back after lockdown and quarantine, I've been lazy like Jacky. I haven't done much exercise. So what I do to stay fit is in school, because it's a big school, I actually walk around. A lot of my staff will jump on their motorbike scooters and just zoom across to the other side of the school and then do whatever and then zoom back. I actually make an effort to walk around. So that's while I'm in school. That's how I try and keep fit. And if it's nice in the evenings, I like to go for a walk down the beach. I love to watch the sunset. Go for a swim, even at this time of the year. I like to go for a quick dip. It's cold, but I still try and get into that water. And yeah, that's me.
Kia ora. Thank you, everyone. That was awesome. I liked. I would have liked to put more dots around the Cook Islands area to see where everyone else is from. As you can see, I've kind of tried to highlight where we're all at on this little map here. But it was awesome sharing and seeing, where we're all up to, and especially, yes, with our well-being and our health. That's something that we always got to remember, focus on ourselves, because you can't give unless, you've got something yet to give. So yeah, I really appreciate listening to what you guys shared. Thank you. So let's move ahead. Oh, I need to clear that. So our whakaraetahi for the session involves learning about e-learning, as Gaylyn mentioned, and blended learning or blended learning, and how it can be used within your school context. The focus for the first part of this session will be to give you a brief overview of blended learning, and then move into a discussion on the alignment of e-learning into your school goals. I thought my planning was a bit stretched. I had one more aspect that I'd like to have covered, which was the SAMI evaluation model, but we'll go very slowly today and really tackle the discussion part about the direction we want to head to with the next few sessions, especially as leaders moving into what you want to get your teachers to focus on. And getting that clear idea of direction is really important. And some of us may already be far along on the journey of integrating tech within your programs, or you may just be thinking, how to start with the wide implications of implementation, infrastructure, the access or sometimes lack of technology, the constraints and the flexibility of your learning spaces, and the way to modify your curriculum or timetable structure. So different focuses, it's the best way to determine what your needs for PLD will be in order to support your teachers to be able to work in an online spaces for the future when the need comes, and even from working from home space. The possibilities these days seem to be pretty endless. So let's look at blended learning for this first part. Blended learning is an approach to learning that combines both the face-to-face as well as the online part of learning experiences. Ideally, though, both online and face-to-face will complement each other. So not separately, but complement each other by using their own particular strengths. To add to it a little bit more, the blend needs to provide students with some control over time, place, path, and or pace. The key focus here is that students have control over time, when they learn, the place, they can choose the path as well in terms of differentiated content, and they might have control over the pace of their own learning, obviously within appropriate timeframes set by the teacher. It's important, though, to remember that if you really want to have an impact on students' learning, we have to remember it's more than just digitizing something we've always done. If we want to achieve, good learning outcomes, we've got to remember that the learning has to change in terms of how it's being taught and how the students learn, which sometimes we don't really fully understand. We need to understand what it is that makes students engage, makes students learn better and are engaging more with their lessons. So that's our learning for the session. And to figure out a little bit more, let's look at something that we're more familiar with. If I need to go slower, or you want to go back to a particular slide, please feel free to pass that on in the chat or using the reactions tool. I do tend to kind of wing my way through quickly. Let's look at this one here, Bloom's taxonomy, which we're pretty all familiar with, and looking at perhaps our thinking skills, and especially the higher order thinking skills that we want to focus on, which is at the top tier of this first triangle here on the left. The lower order thinking skills of remembering and understanding are what we would start our units of work with in class. The higher order thinking skills are usually what we expect our students to complete outside of class on their own with their homework, or, when they're creating, or even if they get to that top tier, sometimes that's a bit tricky, but that's usually something that requires intense work, lots of recurring cycles of individual feedback or group feedback to the students, and this requires time, which we know is in short supply. Whereas if you look on the right hand side, the flipped triangle has the content, has the lower order thinking skills done outside of classroom. So the time is used very wisely at the beginning by the teacher to prep resources that they will do to tackle those lower order thinking skills, with remembering prior knowledge, etc., by giving them access to videos, readings, quizzes, etc., to see what they know, and then using the time in classroom to spend interacting with the students, generating discussions, and then focusing on the application of the learning and tackling those higher order learning skills. So successfully blending the teaching requires a focus on what may be best done not just in class, but also what kids are doing on their own. Because these days, learning is happening anywhere and everywhere with the access to information. So it does require a shift in our thinking. It requires a shift in our mindsets. And we need to reimagine our teaching and our learning practice. So the shifts in the mindsets for ourselves first, as teachers and as students as well, will always be something that we need to focus on. Students will always soak up what we do. So for us as teachers, our practices need to involve shifting that way of learning from we don't need them to know, but we need them to do, moving from a teacher-centered approach to a student-centered approach. And that focus is where students will learn in teams to solve problems. They won't just consume information, but they might become creators of solutions by constructing meaning. And the last point there is really, really important, because where students need to be networking, there will always be a need to teach students social emotional skills. And those skills are what we as teachers, as people, can provide. And even though with the advent of 5G, the technologies, and all the different, machine learning, etc., that we are going to be passing on very shortly to students with all the technologies, which is quite a bit scary, especially coming from a traditional background. We've got to understand that that future is pretty much on our doorsteps, and we've got to figure out how to work by incorporating it into our curriculum. So that mindset shift needs to be done very carefully, very structured, with a lot of encouragement to our kayako. Let's look at the advantages of blended learning and what are the gains around it. Firstly, personalization, because it would provide unique learning pathways for our students. Agency, because it would give opportunities for them to participate in key decisions in their learning experience. By giving learners an authentic audience, so to create for a real audience, both locally or globally. That these days, digital tools allow that. The connectivity, which allows students to experience learning in collaboration with peers, what I mentioned earlier. And lastly, creativity, which is those higher order thinking skills, once again, where they would be making things that matter while building skills for the future. And of course, the holy grail for us all is the fact that it gives us teachers the things that we always searching for, which is student engagement. We really always are looking for this. So when we think about blended learning models, a lot of schools globally are looking for ways, especially because of the crisis, it's kind of fast-tracked it, to combine the online teaching with the face-to-face instruction in some way. The blending may be in one subject, or it could be school-wide. There's an infinite number of ways to blend. And if you look at the top of the diagram, you will see that the blend is in the middle. It's not just using the tools and being fully online, but it's also the traditional and using the pedagogy with the technology-rich instruction that really matters. And we found that with research, the students really don't just want an online model. They prefer to have both. And so finding that blend for us and what works for us as teachers and what works for students is what we need to start thinking about. And there is an infinite number of ways to blend. So you'll see that below that blended learning spectrum, there's a lot of different models, like the rotational model, the flex model, the self-blend model, and of course an enriched virtual model. We're not going to go through all of these here, but suffice it to say, the main takeaway is that there is not one perfect model. Some teachers may be far along on their journey, and some that may need more structured support to work within the space. So as school leaders, the second part of our discussion, and we're coming up to perhaps thinking about how to implement some sort of approach or evaluate it, I would say let's hold on, let's be strategic, because we lead our communities, our schools, in developing, reviewing our school curriculum. It's essential that we make sure that there's a clear statement of intent regarding the use of digital tech to support and transform learning. So for this reason, being strategic is important. I don't think I can say better than possibly Julia Atkina, who's an educational consultant. This is from the TKI website. We're just going to very quickly listen to her. It's a 4-minute long video, so I hope you guys don't mind and you can hear the sound. Let's see what happens. Does that come up for you? Does that come up?
We can see it, but it's not playing.
I'm wondering if I just close this. There we go. Let me know if the sound's not okay.
No, we have no sound.
Okay.
Misha, do you want to put the captions on? That might help.
Excuse me?
Do you want to put the captions on? That might help.
Oh, that would help. Yep, sure. Not working. Is it working? Cool. So if we think about what she's discussed, really, she's basically talking mainly about not just digitizing what we've always done, but also using our goals, our vision, and integrating it into our curriculum. And that requires taking a step back and really thinking about it a little bit more. So to think a little bit more in terms of our responsibilities as leaders, we need to share and develop a school-wide understanding of the role and importance of digital technologies to enable successful learning for all students. And we usually have the responsibility, of course, of a school vision that prepares the students for the future, supported with digital tech. And this can be done by modeling our technology, by us as senior leaders in the school, as well as making sure that teachers appreciate and experience those new technologies as learners themselves before being expected to use them in classrooms. And lastly, I'd say encouraging teachers to take risks and use those technologies in really innovative, meaningful ways that will make an impact on student learning. This is something you may be familiar with. It's on the TKI site. There's a link to it at the bottom, which is the EPlanning Framework, where you could have been on different journeys as a school, or even on a different journey as an individual, as a teacher for yourself. So if you look at the scale or the continuum here, during the COVID crisis, we all were set in that middle band of engaging. Whether we liked it or not, we had to engage online with online learning. We didn't probably have the extending or the empowering sort of ways of aligning it to our practices, and it was all consistent across, but we were all trying to connect our planning across the school, and we were trialing new initiatives, and we were trying to do different things. So yes, we were engaging. As teachers, as leaders, we were trialing new technologies and seeing what would work. And definitely those higher order deep thinking skills that we want to share and pass on to our students. And we found the importance of collaboration, especially in a virtual space. It's very difficult to translate and get those cues of nonverbal communication through those screens. It's difficult. So we've got to find new ways to engage students in that way. So let's see a little bit more about how to think more big picture. So I thought we'd do a demonstration of breakout rooms. So let's see how we go on this. We have 2 questions here. If you have some added questions you'd like to discuss, I thought because there's only, shall we practice this? Shall we break out into 2 groups, or shall we just discuss this as one? I'd really like to demonstrate the use of the breakout rooms, and it would have been ideal if we were bigger groups, because we could all have separated into 2 or 3 rooms and then come back as a whole and discussed what we all talked about, which is ideal. I find that even breaking your students up into pairs or in little groups, the sharing that happens between those groups is way more important than what we can do as a discussion as a whole. So I think let's do that. Shall we do that? I'll just set it up so that you can see how it works. So it will be a fantastic way to do. So I'll come back to the questions. Let's look at the technical side of it. So you're going to nominate yourself a group leader. And once you are in a breakout room, which I will set up for you now, don't panic, it's all done for you. So you will land yourself in a breakout room. And if you were the group leader, click the share screen at the bottom of your screen, and you will see new share or share screen. Choose whiteboard. This whiteboard will help you to collaborate for your notes. And the beautiful part about this collaboration which is a fantastic way to get your students to collaborate, is that if your video is turned off, you don't have to know who is in that group with you. So it can be completely anonymous with just the whiteboard and notes and people talking and sharing. And that is a fantastic little tool to teach students how to collaborate. Of course, it would require a bit of prefrontal teaching, but as you can see, it works out pretty well once you get the kids going in this sort of way. So I'm going to put you guys into breakout rooms. I'm going to put you guys all into one breakout room, just the three of you, okay? And we'll just see what happens from there. And let's go. The option, of course, to remember is that the talking session will be 15 minutes, no longer, to discuss those two questions, which I'm going to put up in a second. And it will also notify you that the countdown will close after 15 minutes. So the breakout rooms will automatically kick you out and bring you back to this main room after 15 minutes. So before that 15 minutes are up, it's important that you save your whiteboard with your notes. So this is something interactive, and this is something that we're doing. And learning happens when we do. So this is what we're going to do. So are we ready? Thumbs up, thumbs down. All good? Okay, let's go. Are we back? Did you all have a nice time traveling? No problem with the traveling? You all traveled back, found the room fine?
It felt like Star Trek, but hey.
We pop in and out, and it's really awesome, and it's interactive, and the kids and teachers would really love, you know, the sort of opportunity to be in a separate, smaller group rather than a huge, you know, space to work in. So I hope that was an informative tool to use. Now, to get my notes back up, which I do not have, let's see if we can move on. Yeah. Am I still sharing? Can you guys see the slideshow?
Not at the moment.
No.
Right, so we need to share. Rightio. Are we able to see that now?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. So I think taking down from all of, let me just check. Yeah, no, we're good. So taking from there and our discussion and what we learned from there, this would normally be a time where we discuss it back in a bigger group, and we'd ask, you know, the little groups if they would like to share 1 or 2 points that they discussed that are important, and you would be able to do this with a bigger group. The main thing, we're coming up to the end of this little slideshow now, is that blended learning classrooms are being used right now, and they are incorporating futuristic technologies out there, such as AI, virtual reality, and augmented reality. The stuff that they're doing following the COVID crisis, there's been a huge uptake for technology. In fact, it's gotten really busy. In the digital technologies area, we're actually gone busier rather than, you know, less busy. So there's a huge scope for students to get into this type of work, or what they need to be doing for their work in terms of a digital space. So the learning for this is going to be massive. And within the workshops and future modules, we're going to be looking at a little bit of each of these and seeing how teachers can learn a bit more about incorporating these sort of technologies into their classrooms. But overall, as leaders, the lockdown experience here in New Zealand proved to us in education that it was possible to create a digital age learning ecosystem, not only with the technology, but also continuing to focus on the things that really matter, a sense of community, and asking those essential questions, the sense of well-being and citizenship, hugely important. As you know, with the crisis of COVID-19, it's brought about a whole lot of other issues, the Black Lives Matter issue, etc., the health and the well-being, the literacy issue around the world of people that don't have access to technology. Those are the essential things that we as a global community need to solve. And so if we really are wanting our students to survive the challenges of the future, we need to make those changes ourselves. So I'm going to end off there and say thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And there'll be a survey that I'll be passing on with an email later down the stage. To gauge what else your needs are. I think we've got some needs from some of the schools, but if you can pass on what your needs are for your particular teachers or get some feedback from them, that survey can be passed on to your teachers as well, and they can figure out what their needs are. And we're happy, Jacky and I are happy to customize to suit little groups. And we can do it in these little groups or in bigger groups so that some of them can opt in for sessions and say, oh, I think I'm okay with this week, but next week, it sounds like a good session. And we thought we'd use Google Classroom so that teachers can take it on at their own pace, and we're modeling then basically what we want our students to do. So thank you once again. I will leave it there. I think our next session, I've left it kind of open, but we will determine that from the survey. And Jacky, you might help in with that one there. And as school leaders, you're already maybe thinking ahead and wondering how to go ahead and make this work. So perhaps we can, if there's no questions, or we'll end off, but I will see if you have any questions, Gaylyn.
That's awesome. I enjoyed that. Thank you.
No worries. So I suppose if anyone would like to do karakia, we can close the space up and everyone can then go on to have an awesome day. Does anyone want to say karakia?
Okay,
either this one or your own, no problem.
Okay, I'll say the closing karakia. Unuhia, unuhia, unuhia ki te uru tapu nui. Kia wātea, kia mama, te kākau, te tinana, te wairua i te ara takata. Koiara e roko, whakairia ake ki ruka, tuturu whakamaua kia tina hui e, tai e.
Amen.
Kia
Yeah.
ora.
Kia ora. I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'm going to stop sharing and stop recording. See you guys later.
Thanks, Misha.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.